In this activity, we'll be creating a program that utilizes iterators. Iterators are a simple way to traverse and manipulate data within your code. Once you're ready, open up Visual Studio Code and we'll get started. Once Visual Studio Code loads, navigate to your Activities directory. We are on Activity 24, so double-click on A24. Once the activity file loads, review the topic and program requirements. Attempt to implement a solution on your own with the video paused. Once completed, resume the video and I will demonstrate my implementation as well as provide insights to the activity topic. Alright, let's dive on in. Our topic is iterator. Our requirements are to triple the value of each item in a vector. We also want to filter the data to only include values that are greater than 10. And then finally, we want to print out each element using a for loop. Our notes indicate that we need to use an iterator chain to accomplish the task. I'll begin by just calling .iter on the existing vector. We now have an iterator to work with, and we can call the map function on that iterator to triple the values. The map function accepts a function, and we will take the number and multiply by 3 to triple it. Next, we will call .filter to filter out elements and only include ones that are greater than 10. To do so, we can simply take the number, see if it's greater than 10. If so, we'll return true, and that'll be that. Finally, we can call .collect in order to collect it into a vector. We need to remember to specify that we are creating a vector, since collect can be used on multiple data types. Next, we need to print out the data using a for loop. So for number in data, we'll just simply call println with the debug token, and it will print out the number. And that should do it for this program. I'll walk through it line by line and explain how each one works. First, we have the data variable, which is being set to the type of vector. The underscore indicates that we don't care what the type is, and the compiler needs to figure it out. It'll infer that the type is a number based on these numbers here. Next, we have a new vector being created with some values. We call .iter on that vector, which creates an iterator. Remember that iterators don't actually execute anything yet. It just sets up a configuration step, which can later be transformed into something new. On that iterator, we call the map function. The map function accepts a closure or function. We are passing in a closure in this case, as you can see by the pipes. The pipes indicate that we have an argument, so we have a num argument, which will correspond to a number. Within the body of our closure, we take that number and multiply it by 3, which will triple the value. After that's done, we then filter through the elements. In our filter function, it accepts a closure or function similar to map. We're naming our argument num, which again corresponds to one of these numbers. And we're simply checking, is num greater than 10? If so, we'll keep it, and if it's not, we'll get rid of it. And that will satisfy the second requirement of only including values greater than 10. Finally, we call .collect on the iterator. The collect step is when all this data will actually be processed. So up until this point here, we're just configuring what we want to do at a later date. Then finally, when we call .collect, we actually execute all the code within these functions. So we'll collect all the numbers into a new vector, and they should all be tripled, as we can see with the map function, and we should only have ones that are greater than 10, as we can see in the filter function. Finally, once that's done, we just simply go through each one using a for loop and print out the values. Let's run this and see if it works. To run the program, go to Terminal, New Terminal. We are on Activity 24, so you can run the program with cargo run -q--bin A24. It looks like I have a compiler error in this case. When we call the filter function, it looks like it always borrows the data. So that means that this number is borrowed, and it tells us what to do. We should just borrow the number, and it should work fine. I'm going to do that. I'll save and rerun again. And here we have 12 and 15 printed out. If we want to double check to make sure that's correct, we can just put a code comment with each number tripled. So we have 3, 6, 9, 12, and 15. So these are the values tripled that are in the vector. So as we can see, the program is working properly because we only have values that are greater than 10 in our printout. This concludes the activity on iterators. I'll see you in the next presentation.